In a quiet village, there was a mysterious food seller named Ada. Every day, people from far and wide lined up in the market to buy her food. The aroma of her cooking filled the air, drawing villagers from their homes and traders from their stalls. Her food was unlike anything anyone had ever tasted. Rich, flavorful, and satisfying. But no one knew where she got her ingredients or how she made her dishes so magical. Ada was a quiet woman with no family. She didn't speak much, and no one in the village knew where she lived. Every morning, she would appear at the market, seemingly out of nowhere, with large pots filled with food. The moment she arrived, people would rush to form a line. Her dishes changed daily, sometimes a delicious stew, other times fragrant rice with perfectly grilled meat. Every meal she made was unforgettable, and no matter how many people came, there was always enough food. She was always the first to arrive at the market, even before the sun rose, and the last to leave when the sky grew dark. People would often wonder how someone who sold so much food could keep her business thriving day after day. Some believed she had a secret source of wealth, while others thought she possessed magical powers. But Ada never revealed her secrets. One day, a group of women in the market began to grow jealous of Ada's success. They had been selling food for years, yet they struggled to sell even a fraction of what Ada did. These women, led by Mama Uche, began to whisper among themselves. "How can she feed so many people from just those few pots of food?" Mama Uche asked. "It's not natural. There's something strange about her." "I heard she doesn't live in the village," one woman added. "No one has ever seen her outside the market." Another woman leaned in closer. "Do you think she's using charms to make people love her food? Maybe she's not even human." The jealousy grew day by day. Some of the women tried to copy Ada's dishes, hoping to attract her customers, but they failed. No matter what they did, they could never match the taste of her food. Frustrated, they started spreading rumors. "Be careful with her food," Mama Uche warned some of the villagers. "Who knows where she gets her ingredients? What if she's using something evil to make her food taste that good?" Despite the rumors, many of the villagers ignored the gossip and continued to line up at Ada's stall. Her food was too good, and she had become too important to them. Even the village chief sent his servants early to buy her meals, as no feast was complete without Ada's dishes. Mama Uche came home one evening, her face twisted with frustration. The market had been terrible for her that day. While Ada's stall was packed with customers, Mama Uche hadn't sold a single bowl of her stew. As she threw down her empty baskets, her mind raced with anger and jealousy. She stormed into the kitchen, determined to cook something good for her family. But just as she was about to start, she called out to her husband, who was sitting on the porch, resting after a long day. "Papa Uche, what do you want to eat tonight?" she asked, trying to keep her voice calm despite her mood. To her surprise, he waved his hand dismissively and said, "I'm not hungry, Mama Uche. I already ate. I ordered food from Ada's stall earlier, and now I'm full. I don't need anything for the rest of the night." Mama Uche froze, her heart pounding. Her husband had eaten from Ada's stall, the same Ada she had been fuming about all day. She clenched her fists, trying to keep her anger in check. "So you ate Ada's food?" she asked, her voice shaking. Papa Uche, completely unaware of his wife's fury, nodded. "Yes, it was delicious. You should have some next time. You won't believe how tender the meat was. I haven't tasted something that good in a long time." Mama Uche's eyes flared. First it had been her children. They had come home from school, complaining that her food didn't taste as good as Ada's. They wanted to buy from Ada every day. And now her husband. Was everyone in her house going to betray her for that woman? She stormed out of the kitchen and into her bedroom, her mind racing with thoughts of Ada. Mama Uche didn't sleep well that night, tossing and turning as anger bubbled inside her. By the time the sun rose the next morning, she had made up her mind. Something had to be done. At the market, Mama Uche was the first to arrive as usual. She set up her stall and waited, but her eyes kept darting to where Ada usually set up. She didn't have to wait long before Ada appeared, carrying her large pots of food like she always did, moving with a calmness that only made Mama Uche angrier. As soon as Ada finished setting up, the line started forming. Mama Uche watched in fury as her husband walked over to Ada's stall again. He greeted her with a smile and waited his turn in line. Mama Uche's blood boiled. She marched over to Ada, pushing through the crowd of customers. "Ada!" Mama Uche shouted. The market went quiet as everyone turned to see what was happening. Ada looked up from her food stall. "Yes, Mama Uche?" Mama Uche walked closer. "You need to stop selling food to my family, my husband and my children. They should not be buying from you." Ada stayed calm. "I didn't make them buy from me. They came because they were hungry. I sell food to anyone who wants it." Mama Uche was very upset. "You're making my family love your food more than mine. They keep talking about how great your food is." "It's not fair," Ada replied quietly. "Mama Uche, I never said anything bad about your cooking. I am just doing my job. People come to my stall because they like my food, but I didn't take anyone away from you." The crowd started to whisper, watching as Mama Uche grew more angry. "You think you're better than the rest of us. You think you can come to this market and take all our customers. I wake up early and work hard, just like everyone else. People buy my food because they enjoy it. I don't know what else you want from me." "I want you to stop selling to my family," Mama Uche yelled. "You've made my husband and children stop eating my food. They think yours is better. I won't allow it. I can't stop them from coming to my stall. You can't make people eat what they don't want." Mama Uche was so angry, but she didn't know what to say. She turned around and left, her heart filled with frustration. The market was still buzzing with whispers as everyone watched her walk away. That night, after the market had closed and everyone had gone home, Mama Uche stayed behind. She was filled with anger and refused to go home. Instead, she hid in the bushes near Ada's stall, waiting to see what would happen. Mama Uche glanced around, feeling the cool night air on her skin. She waited and waited, her heart pounding with frustration. Just as she thought about going home, she saw a figure in the distance. It was Ada, walking slowly with a basket in her hand, heading down a narrow path. Quietly, Mama Uche crept out of the bushes, careful not to make a sound. She followed Ada at a distance, making sure to stay hidden. Ada walked calmly, her footsteps soft on the dirt road. As they moved away from the market, Mama Uche's mind raced with thoughts. What does Ada do when she goes home? She wondered. Why is her food so special? The moonlight guided their way, and Mama Uche kept her eyes on Ada, who seemed to be lost in her own world. Mama Uche's anger began to mix with curiosity. After walking for a while, Ada turned off the path into a small clearing. Mama Uche hesitated for a moment, but decided to keep going. She wanted to know where Ada lived and what made her food so magical. In the clearing, Ada stopped by a small fire pit and set down her basket. She looked around as if sensing something, but didn't see Mama Uche hiding nearby. She paused for a moment, taking a deep breath. The quiet of the night surrounded her, and she felt at peace. But as she prepared to settle down, she suddenly struck her hand on the ground. To Mama Uche's shock, a hidden trapdoor opened, and a lifeless body emerged from beneath the earth. Mama Uche gasped, her heart racing as she took a step back, wanting to run away. But it was too late. Ada's eyes locked onto her, and with a swift gesture, she whispered something under her breath. A strange force filled the air, and Mama Uche felt a tingling sensation wash over her. In an instant, she found herself unable to hear anything. The world became silent. She opened her mouth to scream, but no sound came out. Ada stood there, her expression calm but firm. "You should have stayed away, Mama Uche," she said, though Mama Uche could no longer hear her voice. Panic surged through Mama Uche as she realized she had been made deaf and dumb. Stumbling back in shock, Mama Uche tried to escape, but Ada held her gaze, a knowing look in her eyes. "Now you will understand what it means to be alone," Ada said softly, though Mama Uche could not hear her. In that moment, Mama Uche felt a wave of fear wash over her. She wanted to run, to shout for help, but her body wouldn't obey her. The body that had emerged from the ground seemed to echo the very fears she had harbored, the fear of losing her family, the fear of not being good enough, and the fear of Ada's power. Ada, seeing the panic in Mama Uche's eyes, turned back to the body. She whispered softly, "You will not disrupt my work. You wanted to take away my customers, but now you will learn the truth of what I protect." Mama Uche watched helplessly as Ada returned to her preparations, the flickering firelight casting shadows around her. She could see Ada cooking as if nothing had happened. But now the atmosphere felt heavy and dark. Every moment felt like an eternity for Mama Uche as she struggled to understand what was happening. The silence was suffocating and her mind raced with thoughts. She felt trapped, unable to communicate or escape. As Ada stirred her pot of dead body, the aroma of spices filled the air again, but this time it felt different, thicker, almost ominous. Mama Uche's heart sank as she realized she had entered a world of secrets far beyond her understanding. Desperate to escape, she turned to leave the clearing, but the power of Ada's magic held her in place. It felt as if the ground beneath her was rooting her to the spot. "Now you will see the truth, Mama Uche," Ada continued, her voice steady, though Mama Uche could not hear. "The food I prepare is not just for nourishment. It carries the essence of those who once were, and you will learn to respect that." Ada stirred the pot, the aroma wafting through the air, tantalizing yet terrifying. She ladled a bowl of the thick, dark soup and turned to Mama Uche with a knowing smile. "You will eat this," she commanded, her eyes gleaming with a strange power. Mama Uche shook her head vigorously, her heart pounding. She thought desperately, feeling sick at the thought of consuming something made from the dead body. But Ada's gaze was unyielding. It was as if her eyes held a magic of their own, compelling Mama Uche to obey. "Don't refuse me, or I will make sure you regret it," Ada warned, her voice calm yet chilling. Mama Uche felt a shiver run down her spine. The fear of Ada's threat gripped her, and before she knew it, she found herself bringing the bowl closer to her lips. With trembling hands, she took a spoonful of the soup. The taste was overpowering, a mix of spices and something she couldn't quite identify. Her stomach churned, and she fought the urge to vomit. But Ada's piercing gaze bore into her. "Don't you dare. If you do, I will kill you," she said silently, her eyes flashing with intensity. With tears welling up in her eyes, Mama Uche swallowed hard, forcing the repulsive soup down her throat. Each gulp felt like a betrayal, and she wanted nothing more than to spit it out. But the fear of Ada's wrath kept her from doing so. Instead, she kept her gaze fixed on the ground, ashamed and terrified. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, she finished the bowl. Ada watched her with a satisfied expression. "Good. Now you know what I can do. You are free to go, but remember this moment," she said, her tone dripping with finality. With that, Mama Uche stumbled away from the hut, her mind racing with confusion and despair. She felt a weight in her stomach, heavy with fear and disgust. The world around her seemed surreal, the shadows dancing eerily as she made her way home. When she reached her house, the door creaked open, revealing her husband, who looked worried. "Mama Uche, where have you been? I was so worried," he exclaimed, his relief quickly fading into concern as he noticed her pale face and trembling body. "Are you okay? You look sick," he asked, stepping closer. But as he spoke, he realized something was terribly wrong. Mama Uche stood before him, her mouth moving, but no sound came out. She reached for him, desperate to explain, to tell him what had happened, but all she could do was shake her head and cry. The tears streamed down her cheeks as she realized she could no longer communicate with him. Her husband's eyes widened in confusion and fear. "Mama Uche, please." "What's wrong?" he pleaded, reaching out to comfort her. But all she could do was weep, the weight of her situation crushing her spirit. She pointed to her throat, trying to convey that she couldn't speak, but the words wouldn't come. She felt isolated, trapped in a nightmare of her own making, haunted by the experience with Ada. That night, Mama Uche lay in bed, her husband beside her, unable to find comfort in his presence. She cried silently, the tears soaking her pillow as her heart ached. She thought of Ada's soup and the body that had emerged from the ground. The knowledge of the magic that had taken away her voice felt like a dark shadow looming over her life. Her husband, feeling helpless, held her tightly, whispering words of comfort that she could not hear. He wished he could understand her pain, but Mama Uche felt alone, lost in her thoughts, consumed by fear and regret. The following day, Papa Uche decided to go to the market to buy food from Ada. He woke up early, thinking of all the tasty meals he could prepare for Mama Uche. At the market, the delicious smell of Ada's soup filled the air, making his stomach rumble. He approached her stall, eager to buy some food. After buying a bowl of soup, Papa Uche brought it home for Mama Uche, hoping it would make her feel better. When he entered the house, he called out to her, "I brought you some soup, my dear." But as he placed the bowl in front of her, Mama Uche shook her head vigorously, tears streaming down her cheeks. She wanted to warn him not to eat it, but she couldn't find the words. All she could do was watch as he lifted the spoon to his lips, her heart heavy with fear. Papa Uche took a sip of the soup, savoring the rich flavor. Mama Uche's heart sank as she thought of the dark magic that had taken her voice. She felt helpless, knowing that she couldn't stop him. With each bite he took, she cried silently, feeling a mixture of sadness and despair. She wanted to shout, to stop him from eating Ada's food, but she was trapped in her own silence. Meanwhile, in the market, a woman named Ngozi had gathered some friends to gossip about Mama Uche. "Have you seen Mama Uche?" she asked, her voice low. "She seems so different. It's like she can't hear or speak anymore." The other women nodded, their eyes wide with concern. They had noticed the change in her ever since the day she confronted Ada. "I think something happened after she spoke to Ada," Ngozi whispered, fear creeping into her voice. "We should be careful. I think Ada has strange powers." Mama Uche couldn't bear the pain any longer. Ever since Ada had forced her to eat that dreadful soup, her life had turned into a living nightmare. She couldn't speak, couldn't explain the horror she had witnessed, and now she felt trapped in silence. One evening, as despair overtook her, Mama Uche found a bottle of poison hidden away. With shaking hands and tears streaming down her face, she drank it, unable to face another day of torment. When Papa Uche found her lifeless body, he let out a wail so loud that the entire village came running. The villagers were shocked, but none more so than her closest friend, Ngozi. As people gathered to mourn, whispering about how Mama Uche had lost her voice and died in mysterious circumstances, Ngozi knew deep down that Ada had something to do with her death. But she needed proof. Days passed, and the village slowly returned to normal. But Ngozi could not rest. Every time she passed by Ada's stall in the market, selling her soups with a smile, Ngozi felt a wave of anger and disgust wash over her. She needed to uncover the truth. Determined, she decided to visit a native doctor in a neighboring area. She told him everything about Mama Uche's sudden loss of voice before her death and how she had confronted Ada before everything happened. The native doctor listened carefully, his face growing more serious with each word. "Ada is not an ordinary woman," the native doctor warned. "She is powerful and her secrets are dark. You cannot confront her directly, but I will give you something for protection." He handed Ngozi a small charm wrapped in a piece of cloth. "This will shield you from her powers. Follow her carefully, and you may discover what she's hiding. But be warned, if she catches you, your life will be in great danger." Ngozi nodded, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and determination. She knew this was her only chance to expose Ada for what she truly was. That night, Ngozi waited in the bushes outside the market, keeping her eyes on Ada's stall. As usual, Ada was the last to leave, packing up her things as the rest of the market women headed home. Ngozi followed her from a distance, careful to stay out of sight. Ada walked down a narrow path that led to a secluded area behind her house. Ngozi crouched low, her heart racing, as she watched Ada kneel down and tap the ground 3 times. To Ngozi's horror, the earth beneath Ada shifted, and from the ground a lifeless body emerged. Ada began to cut pieces of the body, wrapping them as if they were meat from the butcher. Ngozi's breath caught in her throat. She couldn't believe her eyes. Ada had been cooking food for the villagers with meat from the dead. The realization hit her like a wave, and for a moment she felt dizzy with shock. But she couldn't stay there any longer. Carefully and quietly, she crept away, her legs trembling as she moved through the bushes. Once she was far enough, she broke into a run, racing back to the village as fast as she could. The next morning, Ngozi gathered some of the village youths and told them everything she had seen. Some were horrified, while others looked at her with skepticism. "Are you sure, Ngozi?" one of them asked. "This sounds unbelievable." But Ngozi was firm. "I know what I saw. Ada is cooking with dead bodies. We need to stop her before more people die." The youths, divided in opinion, decided to inform the village elders. They agreed to call the police, and together they went to Ada's house. But when they arrived, there was nothing unusual. The ground was undisturbed, and Ada acted as though she had no idea what they were talking about. She was taken to the police station, but without any physical evidence, they had no choice but to release her. Ada returned to the village, and soon the rumors began to turn against Ngozi. People whispered that she was jealous of Ada's success and had made up the whole story to ruin her. Ada's customers continued to buy her food, and the villagers began to shun Ngozi, treating her as though she was the troublemaker. Fearful of what might happen next, Ngozi avoided the market, afraid that Ada's loyal customers might confront her. But even with the village turning against her, she couldn't give up. Mama Uche's death haunted her, and she knew she had to find a way to bring Ada down. "I'll wait for the right moment," she told herself, her eyes burning with determination. She knew Ada was dangerous, and exposing her would take more than just one night of spying. The sun was just beginning to rise as Ngozi made her way to the market. She hadn't been there in days, ever since Ada's release from the police. The whispers and glares from the villagers were enough to keep her away. But today she felt a renewed sense of determination. She wasn't going to let fear control her. She had to face Ada. As she walked through the market, she noticed how people turned their backs when they saw her. Some women whispered behind their hands, their eyes darting toward her and then back to their stalls. But Ngozi kept her head held high. She wasn't going to let them see how much their gossip hurt her. When she reached her usual spot in the market, she began setting up her stall to sell the vegetables she had harvested from her garden. But as she was arranging her goods, a shadow fell over her. She looked up and her heart skipped a beat. Ada was standing in front of her, arms crossed, her eyes narrowed in a cold, menacing glare. "You should have listened to them," Ada began, her voice low but sharp. "You should have kept your mouth shut." Ngozi stood up straight, refusing to let the fear show on her face. "I will not be quiet, Ada. Your time is running out." Ada let out a mocking laugh. "You think you can bring me down? What happened to Mama Uche was just the beginning. If you don't stop sticking your nose where it doesn't belong, you'll end up just like her." Ngozi felt a shiver run down her spine at Ada's words, but she stood her ground. "You may have fooled the others, but I know what you're hiding. The truth will come out, and when it does, I will make sure you pay for what you've done." Ada took a step closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "I'm watching you, Ngozi. Every move you make. You can't hide from me, and you can't stop me. If you try, you'll regret it. You'll end up just like Mama Uche, dead, and no one will even care." Ngozi's heart raced, but she clenched her fists, determined not to show fear. "You may think you have everyone fooled, but your time is almost up. You can't keep hiding in the shadows forever." Ada's eyes darkened, and for a moment Ngozi could see the dangerous power behind them. Ada leaned in, her voice cold and threatening. "We'll see about that. But remember this. I can take everything from you. Your voice, your life, just like I did with Mama Uche. You'll wish you had never crossed me." With that, Ada turned on her heel and walked away, her presence leaving a chill in the air. Ngozi watched her go, her heart pounding in her chest. She knew Ada's warning wasn't an empty threat. Ada was powerful, and she wasn't afraid to use her dark magic to get what she wanted. But despite the fear gnawing at her, Ngozi couldn't back down now. She had come too far. Mama Uche's death haunted her, and she knew she couldn't rest until Ada was stopped. "Your end is near, Ada," she whispered to herself. "I will bring you down, no matter what it takes." The rest of the day passed slowly, and as the sun began to set, Ngozi packed up her stall. She felt the weight of Ada's words pressing down on her, but she wouldn't let it crush her spirit. She had already spoken to the native doctor, and she knew there was still hope. She just needed to be patient, to wait for the right moment to gather the evidence she needed. That night, as she lay in bed, Ngozi's mind raced with thoughts of how to expose Ada. She knew it wouldn't be easy, and she had to be careful. Ada's warning was clear. She was watching. But Ngozi wouldn't let fear control her. One day, as Ngozi was leaving the market, she heard two women talking near Ada's stall. "Did you hear?" one woman whispered. "Ngozi thinks she can stop Ada. She's been telling people strange stories about Ada using magic. The other woman shook her head. Ngozi is just jealous. Ada has been here for a long time, and nothing bad has ever happened. I think Ngozi just wants to spoil Ada's business. Ngozi felt her hands tighten in anger. How could they not see the truth? But she knew she couldn't talk to them yet. She needed to gather proof before she could make her move. Determined to stop Ada, Ngozi decided to go to the king. She knew he was respected, and if anyone could help her, it would be him. Early the next morning, she walked to the palace, her heart filled with hope. When she reached the king's court, she bowed and spoke. "Your Majesty, I have come to tell you the truth about Ada," Ngozi began, her voice firm. "She's not who she appears to be. She uses dark magic, and it was because of her that Mama Uchi died." Ngozi stood before the king, pleading her case. "Your Majesty, Ada is dangerous. She uses dark magic, and it's because of her that Mama Uche died." The king looked at her with a tired expression. "Ngozi, you've brought me nothing but stories. Ada's food has been a blessing in this village for years. I've eaten it myself countless times, and I've never felt anything strange." "Your Majesty, please listen," Ngozi began, but the king cut her off. "I think you're just jealous of Ada," he said bluntly. "She's been successful, and instead of focusing on your own life, you're wasting time trying to ruin hers. Face reality, Ngozi. Stop fooling yourself with these wild accusations." Ngozi's heart sank, but she could see there was no convincing him. The king, too blinded by his fondness for Ada's food, would not listen. He waved her away, leaving her standing there, feeling small and defeated. But deep down, Ngozi knew the truth. She couldn't let the king's words stop her. Ada was dangerous, and she wouldn't rest until everyone knew it. As Ngozi walked along the dusty road, deep in thought, she suddenly saw Papa Uche coming toward her. Her heart raced. She hurried up to him. "I was just about to come to your house," Ngozi said, trying to keep her voice steady. "There's something I need to tell you." Papa Uche stopped and looked at her, his expression blank. "What is it, Ngozi?" "I've been working on a plan to bring Ada down," Ngozi explained. "She's the reason your wife is dead. I can't just sit back and do nothing. I want to avenge Mama Uche's death." But to her surprise, Papa Uche's face twisted into a smirk. "Avenge her death," he scoffed. "Ngozi, you're wasting your time. You should mind your own business." Ngozi was taken by surprise. "What do you mean, mind my business? Your wife is dead, and Ada is responsible. How can you not want justice for her?" Papa Uche shook his head, almost amused. "Ngozi, don't cry more than the bereaved. Mama Uche is gone, and life moves on. And for your information," he added, a sly smile creeping across his face, "I'm having an affair with Ada now. She's going to be my wife soon." Ngozi's jaw dropped in shock. "What?" she whispered, hardly able to believe what she was hearing. "How can you say that? Your wife just died a few weeks ago, and now you're with another woman. Ada of all people." Papa Uche shrugged. "What does it matter? Mama Uche is gone, and Ada is still here. She's a good woman. You should stop wasting your time on foolish ideas." Ngozi stared at him, her heart pounding. How could he be so heartless? "But she killed your wife." Ngozi's voice cracked with frustration. Papa Uche waved her off, turning to walk away. "You're foolish, Ngozi. You're crying for someone who wasn't even related to you. Mind your own business, and stop trying to be a hero. You're just dumb." His words stung like a slap to the face. As she watched him walk away, tears welled up in her eyes. She couldn't believe what she had just heard. Papa Uche was not only ignoring the truth, but he was also planning to marry the very woman responsible for his wife's death. Ngozi stood frozen in the middle of the road, her mind swirling with confusion and anger. She had thought Papa Uche would help her, that together they could expose Ada's evil deeds. But now he had betrayed his wife's memory, and Ngozi felt more alone than ever. Determined to stop Ada once and for all, Ngozi decided to visit the native doctor again. She was sure that with his help, she could finally defeat Ada. Early one morning, she set off, her heart heavy but full of determination. When she reached the native doctor's home, everything was quiet. The door was slightly open, and there was no sign of anyone around. Ngozi stepped inside, calling out, "Baba? Baba, are you here?" There was no answer. Her heart pounded as she walked further into the room, and that's when she saw him, the native doctor, lying lifeless on the floor. He was dead. Ngozi gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. She couldn't believe it. Her only hope was gone. Tears welled up in her eyes as she knelt beside him. She didn't need anyone to tell her what had happened. This had to be Ada's doing. "She's behind this," Ngozi whispered, her voice trembling. "Ada killed him to stop me." Heartbroken, Ngozi stood up, her body shaking with anger and sadness. Without the native doctor's power, how could she fight Ada? But even though she felt defeated, something inside her refused to give up. She wiped her tears and clenched her fists. Ada may have destroyed the native doctor, but Ngozi wasn't going to let her win. As Ngozi turned to leave the native doctor's hut, she suddenly felt a chill in the air. Out of nowhere, Ada appeared, blocking her path with a dark smile on her face. "Ngozi," Ada said in a low, dangerous tone, "I've warned you enough. You should have listened. Yes, I killed the native doctor. He thought he could help you, but look at him now, gone, just like Mama Uche. And soon everyone in this village will belong to me. There's nothing you can do about it." Ngozi's heart raced, but she refused to show fear. She stood tall and stared back at Ada, determined. "I'm not afraid of you," Ngozi said, her voice steady. "I know what you've done, and I will stop you. You won't destroy this village, no matter how powerful you think you are." Ada's smile faded, and her eyes darkened with anger. "You're a fool, Ngozi. You're playing a dangerous game, and you don't even know it. This is your last warning." But Ngozi didn't budge. "I'm not backing down, Ada. I'll keep fighting until you're gone. I don't care what it takes." With a wave of her hand, Ada vanished into the air, but Ngozi stood firm. Even though she had lost the native doctor's help, her resolve had only grown stronger. She knew she was facing a powerful enemy, but she was determined to protect the village. Ada's reign of terror would end, no matter what. Ngozi was exhausted when she got home. She lay down and quickly fell asleep. As she slept, she had a vivid dream. In the dream, an angel appeared to her, glowing with bright light. "Ngozi, get up right now," the angel said with urgency. "Go to Ada's hut. You will find her there. The Lord has given you the power to defeat her. Ada's plans for the village are evil, and there is no time to waste." Ngozi woke up, startled but determined. She knew this was a sign. She remembered the Holy Bible her late mother had given her, which she always kept safe. Without hesitation, she grabbed it, holding it tightly as she prepared to face Ada. Though it was the middle of the night, Ngozi felt no fear. She knew she wasn't alone. As she made her way through the dark streets, her heart raced, but her mind was set on one thing: stopping Ada. When she reached Ada's hut, she quietly approached and peeked through the window. What she saw made her stomach churn. Ada was cooking again, and this time Ngozi saw clearly. It was human meat. The horrifying sight confirmed all of Ngozi's fears. Instead of rushing in, Ngozi took out her phone and began recording everything. She knew if she told the villagers, they might not believe her, just like before. This time, she needed solid evidence. The video would show the truth and finally expose Ada for the monster she was. Once Ngozi finished recording, she stepped forward and shouted, "Ada, I know what you're doing. The whole village will know the truth now." Ada turned sharply, her face twisting with rage. "You," she screamed, "you dare challenge me again? You're nothing compared to my power." Ngozi held her Bible close. "You may think you're powerful, Ada, but I have the word of God on my side." Ada's eyes darkened as she prepared to fight. Suddenly, the room filled with a strange, dark energy as Ada called upon her dark magic. But Ngozi stood firm, her heart filled with faith. She opened the Bible and began to pray out loud, calling for protection and strength. The spiritual battle began. Ada hurled spells and curses at Ngozi, but each time, Ngozi blocked them with the power of the Holy Bible. The forces of light and darkness clashed in the small hut, shaking the ground and the walls. Ngozi could feel Ada's evil trying to overpower her, but she refused to back down. She prayed louder, reciting verses from the Bible, and the strength of her words filled the room with light. Ada hissed in anger as her dark powers began to weaken. "You think this will stop me?" Ada snarled. "I've destroyed others before, and I will destroy you too." But Ngozi wasn't afraid. "Your time is over, Ada. The Lord has given me the power to end this once and for all." As she remembered the verse from Ephesians 6:12, Ngozi spoke with confidence. "For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms." The light from her words grew even stronger, filling the entire hut. Ada tried one last attack, summoning a dark shadow to surround her. But Ngozi raised the Bible high, and with one final prayer, the shadow dissolved, and Ada let out a scream. The darkness around her faded, and Ada fell to the ground, defeated. Ngozi stood over her, breathing heavily but filled with a sense of victory. "This is the end for you, Ada. The village will be safe now." Ada, weakened and trembling, looked up at Ngozi with fear in her eyes. How did you do it?" she whispered. Ngozi simply smiled, holding the Bible close. "I didn't do it alone. The power of God is stronger than any evil you can summon." With Ada defeated, Ngozi tied her up and dragged her out of the hut. As she led Ada through the streets, a crowd began to gather. Villagers woke up and came outside, wondering what was happening. When they saw Ngozi with Ada, they were shocked. "What's going on?" one of them asked. Ngozi showed them the video on her phone. "This is what Ada has been doing all along. She's been cooking human meat and using dark magic against the village." The villagers gasped in horror as they watched the evidence on Ngozi's phone. Finally, they believed her. Ada had no more tricks to hide behind. The police were called, and this time, with the video as proof, Ada was arrested for her crimes. The king was so impressed with Ngozi's bravery and determination that he called her to his palace. "Ngozi," he said, "you have saved the village from great evil. Because of your courage, I want to make you one of my trusted advisors." Ngozi couldn't believe it. She was honored by the king's words and accepted the position with a grateful heart. Soon after, Papa Uche came to visit Ngozi. His face was filled with regret. "Ngozi," he said, "I owe you an apology. I was under Ada's spell all along. I didn't know what I was doing when I sided with her. I'm so sorry for everything." Ngozi looked at him with kindness. "It's okay, Papa Uche. Ada's power was strong, but it's over now. What matters is that you're free from her control." 2 days after Ada was put in prison, something strange happened. She was found dead in her cell, and no one could explain how it happened. Many believed it was because of all the evil things she had done, and that her dark magic had finally caught up with her. The village was at peace again. The people were grateful, and life returned to normal, with the village free from fear of Ada's evil forever. The village was saved from her evil plans, and Ngozi had avenged Mama Uche's death. Though the battle had been long and difficult, Ngozi knew she had done the right thing. She had stood up for what was right, and with faith and courage, she had defeated Ada once and for all. The village was free from fear, and Ngozi could finally rest, knowing justice had been served. Dear viewers, what lessons did you take away from this dramatic tale? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed the story, give us a thumbs up, share it with friends, and hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss out on our latest updates. Thanks for watching and stay blessed.